Thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's episode, we take a look at the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Post-Exclusive Serpentor and Air Chariot. Today I'll be reviewing this figure in the following category: accessories, articulation, design, is it essential to your collection, functionality, and price. Once all scores are totaled, I give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. So Hasbro got me on this. I thought this figure was releasing at some point next year, and here he is, a few weeks after ordering it. So this comes with some fancy case. Let's see if I can get it open here. It appears that there's some tape. Let me try to remove that. All right, so there's a lot of tape to undo, and everywhere where I pull the tape back from, that area is now damaged. Not that I care about the box, but for those of you that do, you might want to take a hair dryer to this to warm it up before doing so. So pulling it back, it reveals these two doors, and there you go, Serpentor in his glory. So for accessories, we do get a decent spread, starting with Serpentor's staff. And looking at this immediately, I wish that there were more paint to this. It's just casted in this very matte, I don't even want to say gold finish, and it just comes off looking a bit cheap. And I think the details are certainly here, but just having some paint to bring them out. Looking at Serpentor's blade, you do have some paint on the blade itself, which helps it to look a lot better. But looking at the hilt, it's casted in that same color. And again, it just comes off looking a bit cheap. And it's unfortunate because on the blade itself, there's really a lot of details. And then you have the two-bladed Wolverine claws. Unfortunately on mine, they sort of, what do I want to say here? It should be a space between them, but you know, they're sort of touching each other, so we'll have to put something here to separate it, hopefully get that space back. Here the blades themselves do look good. Looking at the part that mounts on Serpentor, it's done in this very matte gray, and it's going to be very repetitive. Again, it comes off looking cheap. And it's the same with this one, which has two shorter blades. Coming over to this Cobra. Now, this Cobra has some paint. You can see that the mouth is painted the T-far, and you have two different colors on the body of the snake itself. Now, if I remember correctly, in the movie, I believe, or was it a 8-part cartoon series? If I remember correctly, this snake was crawling. Serpentor grabbed it, turning it into this snake, which is the one that was thrown through the chest of Duke. I may have all of that wrong. And then you have this, which I think is a replacement collar to the one that comes on Serpentor. Very great details. I'm not going to even repeat it. You can see it. And then you have an additional piece which mounts on top of Serpentor's head. Though both pieces look very similar to what's on Serpentor already, especially this piece, so we'll have to examine them a bit more closely. And now what you came for is his chariot. I'm so happy to have this because they could have did Serpentor and not offer this. So there's quite some assembly to do. There are a lot of parts. We'll hold those for the functionality department. Looking at the chariot, you know what I want to say. There's no paint and it looks very cheap. If you look closely in some areas, it looks like a bit of sparkling, like some glitter was placed in certain areas, but it doesn't help this vehicle out any. This figure certainly needed an additional screaming head. That would have really added some much needed grit to the Serpentor. In addition to that, I just realized this figure does not come with hands. This figure needs grabbing and punching hands. So for overall accessories, I'm giving this Serpentor a 7 out of 10. So for articulation, I doubt we're going to get any movement with the head looking up, and well, barely any, but maybe some. Okay, the head doesn't look down at all. It doesn't even rotate. You do have some pivot. The arm is able to kick out to the side, only that much. It does rotate a full 360. You do have an upper bicep cut. The elbows are very tight, double jointed, however, only bending in that much. The wrists are on a hinge, which I'm assuming, yes, they are, so they go side to side. Looking at the torso, you do have a floating A-piece. It's able to rotate, crunch forward a decent amount, backwards. You get a little bit of pivot. Using the combination of the two, Serpentor is able to crunch forward a good amount, backwards a good amount. You do have rotation, pivot, and all around good motion. There appears to be a ball peg at the waist. It is, so you get extra movement there. The leg is able to kick forward all the way, backwards a good amount. You do have an upper thigh cut, so it can rotate well. Next point of rotation is at the boot. The foot is able to go down that much, forward that much, and rocker works well on both sides. The knees are double jointed, bending in that much. Thought we would get more, and if I haven't done so, the legs kick out to the side all the way, full 360. And there's the cap for the butterfly joint, moves forward that much, backwards. No shift up and down. I think that's it. So for articulation, the head is extremely limited, no movement there. The torso works extremely well, so does the legs. The arms, for the most part, are okay. There is some areas here to where I would have added, where I would have wanted, additional range. So for overall articulation, I'm going to give Serpentor a 7 out of 10. So for design, there are two different images that we're going to look at. If you look at the cartoon, there's certainly enough variations to this figure. Now, if it's one thing about the cartoon image that I would have liked to see transition over to this modern Serpentor, would certainly be that dry brushing. That would have truly helped the details on this figure to stand out more, because there are a lot of details on this figure, and we'll bring him closer and we'll examine that. Now, the second image that I want to examine is that of the toy, and looking at the toy, you can tell that this figure is derived from that one, and they did a really good job of capturing that. I do wish on the body of Serpentor that some of the paint was a bit darker, as we saw on the toy. So just bringing him up close, let's pull that down for a moment. I really like the eyes so much. It appears that they have a redness to them. I like the stern look on his face, and you can see the expression just carrying out. Way to go, Hasbro, with this. Just looking at the Cobra above him, would have liked to see some more paint here, and that's going to be my gripe overall through this figure. But the details are extraordinary. They're everywhere. Coming down, this hair is a much better gold, so I'm happy with this color of gold. And I'm very happy with this snake right here. They even painted the inside of the mouth, the teeth, as well as the eyes. So this snake and this gold right here transitioning up are the best areas painted on this figure. If they could have replicated that throughout the figure, this would have been phenomenal. And coming down, you see the same snake motif here. Everything is painted well. And then you get to the figure, which is very clean, and I don't think it's anything wrong with that. I, however, would have liked to see a bit of grit in between here. Would have helped those scales to stand out. Coming down on his legs, you see the snake motif continuing, the same that it did with the original toy. And coming to the hands, I really like how they did this. I don't remember with the original toy if the Wolverine double claw was permanently attached or if you could remove it, but I like the fact that they gave us a longer one and a shorter one. And I really like that they gave us a soft goods cape, just like the original toy. They could have given us a plastic one. And looking at the back of the figure, he is so detailed. You can just see like the scales all the way down, and they look phenomenal. So for overall design, if this figure would have had more paint added to it, it would have been a 10 plus. Since I'm going to have to add paint to this or have someone paint it, I'm going to give Serpentor an 8 out of 10. So is Serpentor essential to your collection? Please take us away, Mr. Larson.
Season 2 of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero began in September of 1986, shaking up the status quo at Cobra by introducing a new Cobra Emperor, Serpentor. According to Sunbow writer and story editor Buzz Dixon, the creation and inclusion of Serpentor was a surprise. See, after 4 years of action figures, comics, and cartoons, Hasbro was tired of Cobra Commander and wanted to bring in a new, more spectacular villain, so they designed a Cobra Emperor, snake hat and everything. When Dixon asked, "Where did this Cobra Emperor come from?" Hasbro replied, "He's always been there." While Hasbro tried to find a better name than King Cobra, Dixon tried to figure out how to incorporate him. He came up with 2 ideas for the new character's origin. 1, fed up with Cobra Commander's incompetence, this guy was Frankensteined together by Dr. Mindbender from the DNA of a bunch of history's greatest military minds. Or 2, there's a vast secret empire that has been supporting Cobra this entire time that no one but Cobra Commander knew about. Idea number 1, Frankenstein, was the idea that Dixon thought was superior, but he made the tactical mistake of making both concepts interesting. Hasbro picked both. Ultimately, the movie introduced the idea that Cobra La was the origin point of everything related to Cobra as an organization. Cobra Commander had once lived there and worked as a scientist whose face was disfigured in an accident. It was Cobra La who implanted the idea of creating Serpentor in Dr. Mindbender's head. Cobra La who had pulled the strings and was now pulling rank. Because not only was there someone above Cobra Commander, but there was someone above Serpentor. Globulus, the supreme ruler of Cobra La. To kick off the next 30 episodes, it was the first attempt at a significant refresh of the line and the mythology. Arise, Serpentor, arise, once again took the Joes and Cobras on missions to collect a series of MacGuffins. This time it was the DNA of history's greatest and most ruthless military leaders in an attempt to engineer a new leader for Cobra named Serpentor.
If you're interested in watching the full G.I. Joe video, please click on the link below to where you can check out the Toy Galaxy YouTube page. Now, as far as toy options, there have been a few versions of Serpentor released over the last 30 years. However, those figures are in 4-inch scale. If you're looking for a 6-inch scale Serpentor, well, this is it. So as far as being essential to your collection, I'm going to give Serpentor an 8 out of 10. Functionality, you are looking at all of the parts to assemble the chariot. Fortunately, we do have instructions, which I peeked at. And the transformation here, or assembly, seems pretty straightforward. So we're going to take the upper part of the Cobra hood, and we're going to apply this ball right in here. Okay, mine doesn't appear to be snapping in place, but this is definitely where it goes. Maybe I have to give it a really good push. Actually didn't have to give it a really good push. It really has to mount on the hook up top, more so than just being able to port in place here. So with that assembled, let's go ahead and look at the, I don't know what to call these. I was gonna call this jet areas. No, this absolutely goes to the back. Does it make a difference what side? Maybe. You see this hole here, so we're gonna try this way first. Okay, that works. And we're gonna do the same thing on this side. That works. We're going to take this huge firing device, comes in 2 pieces. We're gonna plug that there, and then we're going to connect this here. All right, yeah, this has to go on this side. The reason I know that is because we get bullets that peg in this way. Okay, I was about to do that wrong. I assume the larger piece goes here, but actually the smaller piece goes here, and the larger piece connects in the back. All right, and the same thing is done to the other side. So just to make sure I don't screw anyone up who may be following this video to how to put this together, I said the other one goes on the other side. This was the other one, it goes on this side. So originally I thought this one would go here, but it actually goes on this side. And it should be fairly easy to tell. Again, this part here should always be to the outside. And the last piece for assembly, so that Serpentor can hold on ports right here. So Here's how Serpentor stands on his chariot, and I gotta admit that looks pretty good, but having a hand to where, you know, it was like a Cobra salute would have been so much better. So looking at the hands, they both appear to be weapon holding hands, and you are able to mount them around this part of what we're going to call the handlebar. And looking at the mouth of the Cobra, it is functional.
Can I try?
Now with the turrets right here, they turn. I do not like how they peg in. They are very loose. You can see what I'm talking about, and that's for both of them. This should have been definitely a better system incorporated.
Dad,
Yep.
can I try to open it? Can I close it out?
Yep, you can. And looking at the back, none of these winglets move. It would have been cool if this, what I believe is like a compressor fan. Oh, it actually does move. Okay, so that's cool if you can see it turning. And I do like the coloration here of what's supposed to be part of the exhaust.
Is that opening? Okay.
Okay, now looking at the mouth, my son just pointed something to my attention. There's what looks like a weapon inside. It would have been cool to have some sort of firing effect that you could mount there. And I'm assuming that none of that came with this figure. Who knows? I could have lost some things in the box. So let's get Serpentor off of the chariot. So Serpentor clearly passes the stand test. I want to go ahead and let's do his weapons first. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the staff. Actually, it's too wide to just, oh, the fingers are super soft. So yeah, he's able to hold that. It's not that tight, but it's not moving. I'm fine with that. Let's get this removed. Next item we'll throw in here is his blade. Let's go ahead and get that. And doesn't hold that tight. Let's try the other hand.
Your belly up here.
Gotta wait a minute. Appears to hold it a lot better in that hand. Turn them to the side. Let's go ahead and throw on simply this piece here plugs right in here, at least I think. Yep. Let's remove that one. He does come with a longer one. Yeah, I think that looks better. So I was looking for the snake that he could throw. Some misplaced it, so that's that. So looking at this, we're going to go ahead and pull this off. I thought it was two separate pieces. Not exactly. Okay, the cape actually comes off too. I guess if you want to pop the arm off. Not sure I want to go through all of that. Okay, if you just take a little bit of time, you could actually wedge the cape down. Being that that's done, let's go ahead and remove this. And let's try to use the other pieces. Okay, so with the secondary hood attached on, let's go ahead and bring this one up. You can see that this one here is more rounder and further out to the side. Now with the actual Cobra top portion of the head, I don't spot the difference here. I want to say maybe this one is flatter up top, possibly. Yeah, it does look to be a bit flatter up top. Not sure which one is my preferred look. Not that big of a difference between the two, unless you are a real Serpentor fan and, you know, you need to have both of these. All right, so going to the soft good cape itself, I did not want to take this off. Very happy that I didn't have to. There's no bendy wire in here. That would have been good if there was. So not a lot to talk about with the cape itself. With this figure, I do love the movement, the ball joint in the torso. The front is able to crunch a decent amount. All the accessories seem to work well. I can't tell you about the snake, unfortunately, so I don't know where it is. If I find it before the end of the video, I will include that part. So for functionality, I'm a little bit torn on the cape. Part of me feels that I should deduct the point for it not having a bendy wire. Part of me feels that I shouldn't deduct the point because it could have been a plastic cape. Now, where I will be deducting the point is unfortunately with the head, as it does not look up any. So for overall functionality, I'll be giving Serpentor an 8 out of 10. So for pricing, Serpentor and his chariot comes in at $80. Add in taxes, add in shipping, you're looking at a price point of roughly 95 bucks. So now is Serpentor worth the price of admission? Well, let's see what he comes with. In terms of accessories, Serpentor comes with some cool items. You get a sword, you get a staff, you get 2 snakes. I want to say that you get hands, but I don't know if I threw mine away. We'll have to find out later. But the star of the show, of course, is the chariot. When we heard about Serpentor, we were wondering, was this figure going to come with a chariot or not? The fact that he does leaves little to be desired. Now, if you want to split the price point, you can say that Serpentor is about $25, though I would give him a bit of a higher value, being that he comes with this soft goods cape. And you could say the chariot is about $55. I'm going to actually say that this Serpentor is about $35 and the chariot is $45. So for overall pricing, I'm going to give Serpentor a 10 out of 10. That should give Serpentor an overall cliff score of. So now is Serpentor a pass or a purchase? Well, depends how far you go into G.I. Joe lore. If you are just in tune to the essential characters, I wouldn't consider Serpentor to be an essential character. Though if you're interested in how the arc changed the background of Cobra Commander, then you may want a character like Serpentor in your collection. As a kid, I had the original Serpentor as well as many other G.I. Joe figures. So for me, this is an absolute purchase. This Serpentor looks great. I love that he comes with the chariot. A few modifications can be done. I'm going to see what I can do on my part to just give this figure more jazz. But the scope is already here. So here's Serpentor next to one of his Cobra allies, and I didn't realize that he was that much larger. Here he is with the smaller female body of Marvel Legends, Ghost Spider.
Daddy, why can't they go that on?
Here he is with the Nickelodeon Playmates 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Leonardo.
Why did not they go that on?
I just took her away.
Why?
Because we showed her already. Let's put somebody else up here. All right, here he is next to Crocmaster.
Okay.
You gotta move him more to the camera. They can't see him. Move this way. Yeah.
But how are they gonna stand up?
Here he is with Sonic the Hedgehog from the Hedgehog movies, missing a hand as well as a leg. And let's throw in
Who is it, brother? And who is it, that guy?
G.I. Joe Storm Shadow. I don't know what the issue was with this figure when it released. I guess people wanted the original one first, but I had this one as a kid. Love that version of Storm Shadow. And for the last comparison, let's just throw in the HasLab Sentinel. So, I want to thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. I hope to see you during the next episode.